Anti-Semitism, also known as anti-Semitism or anti-Semitism, refers to a range of negative attitudes, biases, or discriminatory actions directed against Jewish individuals and communities. This viewpoint is considered a variant of racism, with those who embrace it termed anti-Semites. While anti-Semitism is predominantly perpetrated by non-Jewish individuals, there are instances where Jews themselves may experience self-directed animosity in a phenomenon called auto-anti-Semitism, which involves internalized hatred toward their own identity. At its core, anti-Semitism can stem from either adverse feelings directed at Jews as an ethnic group or from aversion to Judaism as a belief system. The former, often referred to as racial anti-Semitism, is based on the flawed notion that Jews constitute a distinct race with undesirable attributes when compared to the preferred traits within other societal groups. The latter, termed religious anti-Semitism, arises from negative religious views about Jews and Judaism, frequently including demands for Jews to abandon their faith in favor of another religion, perceived as the legitimate successor to Judaism, a recurring theme observed in various Abrahamic religions. Historically, Jews faced discrimination dating back to the Roman Empire due to their monotheistic beliefs and practices, leading to suspicion and negative portrayals. After Jesus Christ's crucifixion by Romans in 33 AD, blame shifted onto Jews, fostering religious rivalry. The Christian Church propagated harmful myths, further marginalizing Jews, who were forced to wear identifying markers. False accusations, like the Jewish blood libel and scapegoating for events like the Black Death, fed anti-Semitic sentiments. Economic roles of Jews, particularly as moneylenders, were misunderstood, resulting in persecution and expulsion from various European countries over centuries. The Enlightenment in the 1700s brought some progress, but anti-Semitism evolved, especially after Darwin's theory of evolution influenced racial ideologies. The term anti-Semitism emerged, focusing on racial superiority rather than just religious conflict. This led to violence against Jews in Eastern Europe and the rise of Nazi Germany, which enacted policies of extermination, resulting in the murder of 6 million Jews. While post-war efforts have been made to reconcile, like Pope John Paul II's outreach, anti-Semitism continues to manifest, especially in far-right movements today. Understanding and valuing differences is essential to prevent future atrocities against any group. Historically, both racial and religious forms of anti-Semitism have been fueled by anti-Judaism, which, while related, is a separate concept from anti-Semitism itself. Anti-Semitism can manifest in numerous ways, varying in severity depending on the form of oppression faced by Jews. Subtler manifestations might involve expressions of hatred or discrimination against individual Jews, sometimes without accompanying violence. Conversely, the most extreme manifestations can take the shape of pogroms or genocides, which may be supported or orchestrated by the state. Although the term anti-Semitism gained traction in the 19th century, its implications extend both before and after this period and apply to a multitude of historical incidents of anti-Jewish aggression. Some significant events of anti-Semitic persecution encompass the Rhineland massacres in 1096, the Expulsion Edict of 1290, the targeting of Jews during the Black Death in Europe between 1348 and 1351, the Spanish massacres of 1391, the Inquisitional persecutions and subsequent expulsion of Jews from Spain in 1492, the Cossack massacres in Ukraine from 1648 to 1657, various pogroms in the Russian Empire. Occurring between 1821 and 1906, the Dreyfus Affair between 1894 and 1906, the Holocaust during World War II, and several anti-Semitic regulations enacted by the Soviet Union. Historically, the majority of violent anti-Semitic incidents took place within Christian Europe. However, since the early 20th century, there has been a notable rise in anti-Semitic acts across the Arab world, significantly influenced by the proliferation of Arab anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, which were in part inspired by earlier European conspiratorial narratives. In modern times, a new form of anti-Semitism has emerged, often referred to as New Anti-Semitism. This contemporary manifestation involves various anonymous individuals exploiting the ongoing Arab-Israeli conflict to lend credibility to their anti-Semitic viewpoints by masquerading as critics of Israeli government policies. It is important to note that genuine criticism of Israeli actions does not equate to anti-Semitism. Given Israel's predominantly Jewish population, anti-Semitic rhetoric is frequently conveyed through sentiments opposing Israel, although this doesn't universally apply, as such expressions may sometimes be aligned with broader anti-Middle Eastern movements. The term anti-Semitism can often lead to misunderstandings due to the prefix Semite, with some interpreting it as indicating racial hatred against all Semitic peoples, including speakers of Semitic languages like Arabs and Assyrians. This interpretation is inaccurate. The term anti-Semitismus was first coined in print in Germany in 1879 as a seemingly scientific label for Judenhass, which means Jew hatred, and subsequently evolved to encompass general anti-Semitic sentiments. Some prominent anti-Semitic figures. Wilhelm Marr published a book titled Der Weg zum Siege des Germanentums über das Judentum in 1880, which articulated anti-Semitic notions. Martin Luther, 1483 to 1546, the German theologian who initiated the Protestant Reformation, expressed anti-Semitic beliefs, though his opposition was primarily focused on Catholicism rather than vehemently against Jews. Nevertheless, the Lutheran Church named after him did not adopt anti-Semitic doctrines. Dr. Karl Lueger, 1844 to 1910, a politician who served as mayor of Vienna from 1897 to 1910, promoted anti-Semitic and racist policies during his tenure. Lueger became a highly influential figure in Austria, appreciated for his cultured demeanor and intellectual prowess. Even among his adversaries, including Jews, he was often regarded as respectable, noble, generous, and tolerant. Notably, the renowned Austrian Jewish author Stefan Zweig held a favorable view of him. Consequently, Lueger's anti-Semitic ideologies were sophisticated enough to garner personal respect. Adolf Hitler was significantly influenced by Lueger in his younger years in Vienna. He claimed that his anti-Semitic outlook developed during his time in the city, which he believed was plagued by Jewish involvement in prostitution and the white slave trade. Immersed in anti-Semitic literature, Hitler took these ideas further, critiquing Lueger for being overly lenient and failing to address the racial aspects associated with Jews. The German Workers' Party, which later evolved into the Nazi Party, formally articulated anti-Semitic doctrine in its platform unveiled on February 24, 1920. This document laid out the official guidelines for the Nazi Party's actions. Hitler's own anti-Semitic ideology was explicitly detailed in his book, Mein Kampf. He reflected on history to commend the German Empire established by Otto von Bismarck in 1871, but lamented that its downfall was partly due to its tolerance of Jewish people. However, Hitler was not the sole proponent of unchecked anti-Semitism. Many key figures within the early German Workers' Party held similar views long before Hitler gained prominence. Dietrich Eckart, often seen as a spiritual precursor to Nazism, was openly anti-Semitic from the outset. The Central Committee of the German Workers' Party contributed to the growing ambiguity surrounding anti-Semitism when, in an attempt to undermine Hitler's influence in 1921, they accused him of having pro-Jewish leanings. During this era, anti-Semitism surged in Germany, exemplified by the German Workers' Party's acquisition of a newspaper dedicated to anti-Semitic content in 1920, which subsequently became the party's official propaganda outlet. This shift allowed anti-Semitism to resonate more broadly. Hitler exploited existing anti-Semitic sentiments among many Germans, while his charismatic speeches attracted even more followers to this ideology. Throughout his lifetime, Hitler remained deeply entrenched in blind and fanatical anti-Semitism. In his will, composed mere hours before his demise, he made one last denunciation of Jews, blaming them for the war he had instigated.